Hello, my name is Kevin Tudor, and I'm one of the three hosts of Almost Major, a film podcast dissecting many major indie studios and the films they release. Every week, myself, Charlie Nash, and Bryden Doyle discuss overlooked, forgotten, or bona fide classic indie films via studio-specific miniseries. We've previously covered numerous films from Artisan Entertainment, Lionsgate Films, and New Line Cinema. Titles including The Blair Witch Project, American Psycho, Dogville, But I'm a Cheerleader, Saw, Requiem for a Dream, and Ringmaster, you know, the Jerry Springer film. Anyways, we have a fun time every week and we hope you will join us. Subscribe to Almost Major wherever you get your podcasts. Now proudly a part of the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
Have you ever wanted to dive deeper into the horror movies you love? Beyond the Blood is a horror podcast for fans who want more than just surface level screams. We do deep dives into the movies that shaped us, digging into director commentaries, behind-the-scenes stories, deleted scenes, and the special features that most people skip. Each episode is a love letter to the genre. We break down how these films were made, the creative risks that paid off or didn't, and the lasting impact they've had on the genre as a whole. From 70s slashers to modern nightmares, we celebrate the craft, chaos, and characters that keep us coming back. If you're the kind of fan who rewatches movies with the commentary on, or you simply grew up in the video store horror aisle, the Beyond the Blood podcast was made for you. New episodes every single week. Subscribe, and let's dig deep. Welcome to the Beyond the Blood podcast.
Welcome to the Kulturecast. I'm Chris Stachiw, and I am joined by my good friend, award-winning screenwriter, see what I did there, Mrs. Jess Byard.
Hello.
Before we talk about this little documentary about scary stories to tell in the dark, the most banned book of the 1990s. Oh, God.
I feel like that was still Harry Potter, though.
Right, like demons? Wizards and demons! Get them out of my school!
I mean, I legitimately went to a school where they were trying to get it banned.
Oh, I didn't, but I did go to a school where they were like, Magic the Gathering is bad. Let's ban that. But
well, I mean, it is, but...
well, you know what? They banned it because it was like, because kids were focusing on it more than...
How dare you? Yeah, well, maybe they should make school more interesting.
Oof, oof. Ooh, we're going, the fucking knives are out and we're just pushing them right into the jugular.
Hey, I'm anti-school.
I have my master's and I too am anti-school because I don't have very much money because of it. But before we talk about the documentary Scary Stories, which is the name of the documentary, we should preface this by saying, yes, there is a film coming out later this year in August called Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, which is a narrative film about the books that aren't narrative at all.
I don't really know what's happening. I don't know if it's like they find the book situation and then they read from the book and a la Necronomicon things come out of it.
I think, so the synopsis on IMDb right now is a group of teens face their fears in order to save their lives. I think what it might be is just they're having these stories exist in this universe in a way. I don't think the books, like, I can't imagine the books are going to be in the movie because I don't think they're that smart. I think it's just like, these are what the stories are based off of. These are what the people, like, you know what I mean?
And whatever their fears are going to manifest as,
these,
like things from, like, the lady with the spiders in her face.
Sure.
Like, that's something that somebody would be scared of. Yeah.
Which is, like, very prominently shown in the trailer for the narrative. And, like, look.
I mean, it's very prominently shown on this book cover I have.
Exactly. Jess and I talked a little bit pre-podcast about kind of the books and the movies and Goosebumps, because I think that's the closest kind of analog to this. Is like there was Goosebumps movies and there were the Goosebumps movies were like the Goosebumps books exist in this universe. I think that maybe Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark avoided that on purpose.
But the Goosebumps books don't exist in the Goosebumps show.
Right. No.
They just exist in the Goosebumps movie.
Right.
Because the movie's in a different universe than the show is. The show operates in much more of like this is the real world and then weird shit happens.
Right. Like a Tales from the Crypt type thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Where it's just like a weird event occurs in normal town.
However, we're not talking about that film, Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. I'm assuming you and I will probably end up talking about that since we're talking about this when that comes out, and probably going to tear it apart because it doesn't look good.
Yeah, I mean, I hold out a little bit of hope just because I do enjoy the stories, obviously.
And Guillermo del Toro is associated with it.
Exactly, but I don't know how much he's associated with it.
But at the same time, the thing I always bring up when it comes to Guillermo is go and look at the fucking Wikipedia page of the things that he has said he's going to make and how many of those things. Like, he has a unfinished projects page on Wikipedia. That's not a good sign.
No, and that's honestly, most of that is just studio faults not wanting to take chances on things that are so elaborate. Because let's be honest, most of his projects would be incredibly elaborate. They would involve a lot of set design, a lot of creature effects, a lot of character, like just. I mean, everything's a period piece, right? Period pieces are immediately expensive.
Yeah, well, and stuff like Mountains of Madness, where that needs to be shot somewhere where it's believably bleak and barren and icy and frozen is not, like you said, it's not cheap. So
exactly, and I don't think audiences of 2019 or mass audiences of 2019 are down for a H.P. Lovecraft mind-melting horror film.
Well, and let's be honest here. I don't.
If Heredity takes too much for people to figure out, I don't think H.P. Lovecraft is going to be.
Hell, if Endgame takes too much for people to understand something that is like mildly mentally stimulating. I don't like that. That's the smart person movie. Oh, dear God.
Right.
Yeah, I don't like to read when I watch movies either, so get those weird foreign films out of here.
If I wanted to read, I'd just read a book.
But you don't read books. You're a liar. You don't even read books, so get out of here. But we are going to talk about Scary Stories, the forthcoming documentary from Cody Meirick.
Part of Alvin Schwartz's brilliance was that he took all these old folk legends and made them readable for kids. And I think that's his particular genius.
That book was talked about on the playground.
There's something a little off-putting, but that's why it's so fascinating.
You had to sign up a couple weeks in advance if you wanted to get them.
Everybody knew these stories.
And it was always a subject of dares. Like, I dare you to check out the book.
Parents and teachers in a Seattle suburb will vote next week on a plan to ban 3 books from an elementary school library. Those who want to get rid of the books say they're just too gruesome for young readers.
There is a horse that is grotesque, it is misshapen, it is disproportionate, it has a human eye.
Growing up, I never really saw the Scary Stories books in light of them being widely banned. I just saw them as stories that my grandfather collected.
He was the #1 banned book author, and he just loved that.
Children have a need to master the fears that they have in their life.
So they kind of give readers a taste of the darker side of humanity. I always found it interesting that these books were challenged because we don't discourage students from reading Greek mythology or Robin Hood.
I finally got the courage to check out the book myself, carrying it home in my backpack and feeling like it was burning up.
I believe it was at Indiegogo.
I believe so, yes, it was.
And it is a documentary about the most banned books of modern times. The book series, Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, by Alvin Schwartz, that came out in the late 80s, early 90s, that adults of my generation, which is your generation as well, Jess, will remember as books that were purchased at Scholastic book fairs and checked out of the library en masse. when we were in elementary school. So before we get into the documentary, what's kind of your experience with the books that are the subject of said documentary?
Yeah, for me, I had, I got the first Scary Stories book I ordered from the Scholastic book catalog thing that we would get in school every year. That was like my most coveted thing because I was such a nerd that I just like looked forward to that catalog every year to circle books. And all I did was circle things that appeared creepy because that's what I was into even as a kid. So my mom did order the first book for me and I loved it. And then I don't know how I acquired the next two, but I eventually did. The one I have now is not the original one that I had. This one is the Scary Stories Treasury. It's all the books combined, but when I was a kid, I had the 3 individuals with the 3 individual covers, which were always my favorite. I preferred the one with the 3 heads. I think that was the final one, but the man with the head coming out of the ground with the corncob pipe is the probably most iconic one, and that is the one that they use on the poster, I think, for this.
So the one that you have now as an adult, is that the one that they deride in the documentary as they changed the art with their like really shitty clip art t-shirt thing?
Probably. I mean, it says illustrated by Stephen Gamble, and I mean the illustrations are still creepy. Like they still look unsettling in this, but I do think that there is a little bit of touch up. Like the things just don't seem quite as unnerving,
jagged and rough and
right
upsetting.
Yeah, things are a bit softer. Like that's a good way to describe it. There are a lot of softer lines in this, but I mean that doesn't really make it's still for children. And if I were 5, 6, 7 years old again, these pictures would still creep me out.
But just they're not for kids, clearly.
I do think it's bullshit that they would go back and alter the art, though.
I think, let me put it this way, I think it's a general misunderstanding of what makes these compelling to read.
Right.
HarperCollins goes, you know what? We like the new artist, Brett Helquist, so let's put new art in there. I mean, like, look, let's be honest here, the art doesn't change that the stories are horrifying.
Right. And the way that the stories are written. I mean, him adding the little nuances into each line of how you're supposed to read things or how you're supposed to say things. That just made it more fun.
Well, and, the critics pushed back as well on the new drawings. And look, I'm not going to deride Brett Helquist. He was brought in to do drawings. That's what he was paid to do. So it's not his fault. It's HarperCollins going, man, maybe we should just redo the art because no one cares anyways. But they clearly got the memo pretty quickly that was not something that needed to be changed. So,
but the documentary, which honestly I would say is actually more of a tribute. I would not call it a documentary. I really wouldn't.
It's very poorly put together.
It's made by fans. It's definitely made by fans. It's made by people who love the source material. There's no denying that.
Almost to a fault.
Yes, I think they're blind. They were a little bit blind in their love, in that they were just like, we love this and we want to make a documentary about it. Let's just make a documentary about it. But the thing is that you need to have a story in a documentary, right? Like you need to have a
you're still telling a narrative.
Point,
yeah.
Rather than just having a bunch of talking heads floating around with some B-roll thrown in, which is...
You won't see the engineer that slams the Nissan Rogue's door 13,920 times. Or the corrosive chamber that simulates 15 years of life in 5 months. Or the Rogue heat-baked for over 300 combined hours. What you will see is a vehicle that can take punch after punch and keep rolling. Nissan, #1 in new vehicle quality among mainstream brands by J.D. Power. We put it through the worst, so you get its best. For J.D. Power 2025 U.S. Initial Quality Study Award information, visit jdpower.com/awards. Awards based on 2025 model year. Newer models may be shown.
Hello, filthy movie lovers. My name is Gentry Austin.
And I'm Casey Scott.
And we're the hosts of the Sin Syndicate, film podcast for something weirdos, anti-criterion bros, and Joseph Sarno aficionados. Join us semi-weekly as we peer into the adults-only theaters and sticky-floored cinemas of the golden age of sexploitation, when the morals were loose, the laws were murky, and the intercourse was all simulated. Find us now on the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
Essentially what we have here. But
and the problem is what the talking heads are saying is it's not particularly compelling or interesting. They're just going, yeah, I too like this. Don't you like this? You want to hear me talk about what you like? Because I too like it. It's like, that's not compelling. That's just kind of what it feels like is a circle jerk. It feels like a circle jerk. We're just all jerking off at the fact that we like this. And some of us like it so much that we've allowed it to really, really influence us. Like, I liked Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, but I mean, I'm not going to devote things I do in my life to it. There's a lot more.
No.
There's a lot more impactful and important pieces of horror literature than Scary Stories, because ultimately at the end of the day, and I'm not saying this as an offensive thing, but Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark are ultimately compilations of stories that already existed.
Oh, yeah. And that's kind of, I mean, honestly, I would have really liked them to go more into Alvin Schwartz himself, which, sidebar, April 25th, it just passed, was his birthday, evidently. I just saw as I looked up this movie. But I would have been more interested if they'd done a documentary about Alvin Schwartz, not about Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark.
Or because to counterpoint, only a documentary about where those stories came from, which ends up being
Urban
just
Legends documentary.
Yeah, which is essentially the Urban Legends documentary that already exists. So,
right.
Which
and
is
a thousand other Urban Legend documentaries just like it, and everybody knows the Hokan story.
I like that Urban Legends documentary.
I do too. You know what? And I even like the '90s movie Urban Legends.
Wow, I have never seen it, and I don't know.
Oh man, that needs to be a special episode.
Special episode: Urban Legends movie and Urban Legends documentary. But the thing is, I think you're right. They don't pick a side. They don't say, I want to talk about Alvin Schwartz or I want to talk about where these stories come from. They're saying, well, let's just do a little bit of both, and neither one is strong enough to stand on their own.
Right.
Well, neither one is interesting enough. Well, actually, excuse me. Both of them are interesting enough to stand on their own, but together it becomes muddled.
They do, and I think that the closest we get to them, like, I think what they really wanted to do is they wanted to make the banned book part of it their main thing.
I'm like,
the
why does
problem
that
is
matter?
it's not that interesting because we all know it. We've all, but and Scary Stories was not the first book to be challenged, and it was not the last book to be challenged. And banned book stories are important to tell, and they are, you know, those bits that they showed from C-SPAN of parents pleading with, you know, the powers that be not to ban these books because, you know, for some of their kids, this is what, you know, got them into reading, and they're afraid that if that were to go away, then they would, you know, the interest would be lost. That, I think, is the angle that they were trying to go for by, you know, having it that woman who was head of kind of the accidentally, did she accidentally become the pariah of this? Or
well, here's the thing. I felt like she didn't want that, but then she kind of reveled in the fact that she got it.
Right. Because she initially was just like, oh, I guess I'll just say something because I've been getting complaints about these books. And then it turned into this woman totally hates these books and she's the da-da-da-da and she hates, you know. So I think you're right. I think she did kind of like get kind of caught up in that. But when they're interviewing her, she's barely talking about it. She's just like, yeah, it's a thing that happened.
Yeah, she's like, would you get this camera away from me? Don't you have someone else more important to interview?
Like, can't you like, I'm an angry old woman. I was an angry woman then. I'm an angry woman now.
I'm surprised she didn't say these books are unchristian. Because I was like, I was waiting for the other shoe to drop. Like, I was genuinely waiting
that
for
was
that.
Definitely there in the background.
Yeah. Praise be. Praise be to God, because God doesn't want you to read folklore stories that have nothing to do with the devil.
Right, exactly. That magic is the wrong kind of magic.
Yeah, I think ultimately the things that bother me the most about this documentary is that it's just, like you said, it's just people who are so passionate about it not saying anything that we don't already know.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't need you to read the book on documentary. Like, that felt so bizarre to me.
Yeah, that's weird. The reenactments of the babysitter reading that was very strange. It was very that's what I'm confused. Like, I'm wondering exactly how many voices we had going into this story, of what exactly what they wanted the creative to be. Like, I get the feeling that there was somebody in the creative development process that really wanted to kind of do more of those reenactments and like kind of bring the stories to life themselves. And so I think that idea probably got really expensive really fast. And then they were like, okay, maybe we can just do one of these then. Because it's weird that they just have the kind of one reenactment of the story, right?
Well, and I mean, the thing is that if you're going to do that, why don't you just make the entire documentary about retelling the stories and then exploring their origins?
Right.
Right.
Which, I mean, still would have been unnecessary because all of these urban legends are ones we already know, like that everyone knows. Like they're not going into, you know, urban legends around the world where some stories we don't know so well. But if we're doing things like the hook hand or the spider lady face, like the laying eggs in your face, everybody knows those stories. So even if they did do a documentary where they were just exploring the urban legends, we're just still sitting here watching people retell us information that we already know. It kind of felt like a Wikipedia page was being read to me, quite honestly.
Well, I mean, Mike White and I always talk about this, like, oh, why don't you just be we always joke about the interviewer who just starts reading down someone's IMDb page if they're interviewing like an actor or director. And that, like you said, that's exactly what this feels like. And like, okay, so we need to cover this. We need to cover the banned book thing. We need to talk a little bit about Alvin Schwartz. We need to talk about other horror writers of the times like R.L. Stine and Q.L. Pierce and like not the Babysitter's Club. Oh, what is that called? They mention it in the documentary.
I'm totally blanking on what it is too.
Like the Campfire Kids, or if that's not a thing. If that's not a thing, it totally should be. Maybe I'll start writing those books and make millions of dollars by writing horror light for little kids.
Campfire Kids.
Campfire Kids. But you're right. It felt like a Wikipedia page. And look, Cody Meirick, I'm sure his heart was in the right place. I know it was because he's very passionate about these books. However, the problem ultimately becomes just because you love something doesn't mean that you're the best person to tell the story.
Right.
And honestly, the person who loves it might not be the best person to tell the story.
Because they're too in it. You're too far in it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a Paul Williams documentary that came out a couple years ago. And if you don't know who Paul Williams is, I know you know who Paul Williams is. But Paul Williams is one of the greatest singer-songwriters of the last 50 years. There was a documentary that came out. I can't remember what the hell it was called. I want to say it was like I'm Still Here, or
I feel like that might
something
be
to that effect. It's not I'm Still Here because that's that horrifyingly bad Joaquin Phoenix movie that came out a couple years ago. But it's like I'm Not Dead, Still Alive, and it ends up being more about the guy who's doing the documentary than about Paul Williams. And it's like, what the fuck, dude? No one cares about you or your meeting and, like, you know, being enamored with Paul Williams. It should be about Paul Williams. And that's kind of what this feels like, but it feels more like, don't you love scary stories? I do too. Let's talk about it for an hour and a half. It's like, oh man, like I could talk about my experiences with the books with just my friends because we're all the same age and we've all read it.
Right, and it would be the same exact conversation they had, but in a shorter time period.
Yeah, exactly. And it would probably be a little bit more kind of focused. If we're talking about the things that the documentary could have done, you know, we've kind of already touched on that a little bit. I would be curious to see, and they kind of touched on it, but they kind of fell short, was like, how would people now react to it?
Right.
Because like, that's an interesting question.
I feel like people now, I mean, kids now wouldn't think this is scary, I don't think. Like little kids would maybe look at the pictures and think they were scary, but if they read the stories, probably not. I mean, when I was a kid in the 90s and I was drawn to creepy stuff anyway, like Nickelodeon was fraught with creepy stuff, like Are You Afraid of the Dark and Real Monsters. And then, I mean, even cartoons like Rocko's Modern Life, which were not horror-centric, but still very strange and odd, and had a lot of, like, you know, I specifically remember one episode of Rocko in where Heifer's, like, a night guard at a hotel, and he's going around doing his rounds and happens upon Filbert as twins, and it's very much a Shining reference. So that stuff was all there, and that was in the 90s. Now, like, I think kids are exposed to so much more, I mean, violence, at least. In everything.
I mean, just think about, like, Creepypasta and Slender Man and stuff like that is inherently horror.
It is. And also urban legends.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and like, those have almost supplanted something like Scary Stories as, like, the way kids are scaring themselves now.
Well, and that stuff's even scary. I mean, that stuff is scarier, quite honestly. Like, kids are coming up with scarier shit.
Castle Cove or Candle Cove?
Candle
what the hell
Cove,
is
yeah.
Candle Cove? I mean, like, that's...
Pennsylvania.
Yeah, Castle... God, I'm all over the place tonight. Candle Cove is one of those things that, like, is terrifying to me. Because it's like that Mandela effect thing, but then mixed in with, like, a very weird, like, subliminal messaging, side tangent.
And like, Uncanny Valley shit.
And it's, like, really weird and fun and interesting. And, yeah, I think you're right. Like, I think maybe they avoided having that in this because it'd be like, yeah, these fucking stories are dumb. Like,
I mean, they're not, and that's the thing about Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, is that because we are such a nostalgia-driven, like, generation, we latch on and hold on to, like, the things that we loved as kids. And I know every generation does that, obviously. But we're unwilling to... We hold everything that we loved at the same caliber, right? Like, everything that we loved as a kid is on the same level. Whereas now, if you look back at it, I still like Goosebumps and Are You Afraid of the Dark and Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. But I can tell you right now that of those three things, Are You Afraid of the Dark is probably the one that I'm always going to land on more because it's more original and the stakes were always a bit higher. Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, I liked as a kid. The pictures...
You won't see the engineer that slams the Nissan Rogue's door 13,920 times. Or the corrosive chamber that simulates 15 years of life in 5 months. Or the Rogue heat-baked for over 300 combined hours. What you will see is a vehicle that can take punch after punch and keep rolling. Nissan, #1 in new vehicle quality among mainstream brands by J.D. Power. We put it through the worst, so you get its best. For J.D. Power 2025 U.S. Initial Quality Study Award information, visit jdpower.com/awards. Awards based on 2025 model year. Newer models may be shown.
Hello and welcome to Tumbleweeds and TV Cowboys. My name is Hunter. In this podcast, I'll be joined by a different guest each week to discuss a classic Western movie or TV show. I've been a fan of classic Westerns for as long as I can remember, and in recent years, they've become very nostalgic for me. I love the aesthetic, the tropes, and I love seeing different filmmakers' takes on them. At their best, they're incredibly entertaining, rewatchable, and some of my all-time favorite movies are Westerns. We'll mostly focus on Western movies made in Hollywood, but we'll also be covering spaghetti Westerns, and one thing I'm very excited to get into are Western TV shows. I've got some amazing guests coming on the show, film professors, historians, and podcasters, and Tumbleweeds and TV Cowboys is part of the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network, and many guests on the show will be from other shows on the network. Thanks for listening.
Were great. That's what drew me in. It was not the stories, quite honestly. It was the visual aspect. The stories were a bonus.
I'm glad that they talk about that in the documentary. But, like, I don't think that they give Stephen Gamble enough credit.
No.
Because, like, I'm going to level with you, and I think you kind of just said it. Like, the pictures were much more interesting than the stories.
They were.
And they were much more terrifying than the stories.
I mean, Alvin Schwartz essentially, like you said, rewrote urban legends.
He's a custodian for urban legends. He's a custodian of the urban legend tradition that's been passed down from generation to generation. Just retelling these. Yeah, it's great, but it's not original works.
No, and it's not works that are still particularly compelling in themselves. And that with this documentary, if they were focusing too much on just their love for the stories, but nobody could really articulate why beyond other than, they creep me out as a kid. and I'd never seen anything like them before. Okay.
I honestly feel like, and I don't know how you feel about this, maybe this documentary would have been better suited to be about Goosebumps. Or, more broadly, just the 90s horror YA movement.
That would have been great. Like, I would honestly, a documentary that would, like, encompass the horror YA movement of the 90s, like Goosebumps, Are You Afraid of the Dark, like, all of that, because there was a lot of it. There was a lot of horror and horror-adjacent stuff for kids in the 90s.
Like the Campfire Kids.
Right.
Which totally doesn't exist. Or maybe it does. Mandela Effect time.
Now I'm just thinking about the Boxcar Children.
Boxcar Children?
The Boxcar Kids. That was like a book series about like some orphans that lived in train cars. It's really depressing. I read it in elementary school.
That's horrifying in
Pretty
so
sure they were
many
called the
ways.
Boxcar Children.
Boxcar Children. Jesus.
Yeah, they were like books. But,
oh my God.
Nope, that's for real. I'm looking at it right now.
Boxcar Children.
Uh-huh.
Yikes. Yeah, I feel like the YA horror movement in the 90s would have been a much more compelling topic because you have more to talk about. I mean, holy shit, you have R.L. Stine in this documentary.
Right.
And he's talking about someone else's stuff. And I honestly God feel like if I had R.L. Stine in the room, I would have been asking him about Goosebumps.
Only.
Not about scary stories to tell in the dark.
I'm sure they did, which means there's probably, because they didn't just interview R.L. Stine for 15 minutes. I'm sure they interviewed him for like 4 hours. And then like 15 minutes of it that was actually about scary stories to tell in the dark went in the documentary, and everything else is just like on their computer at home.
But I don't trust Cody Meirick to make a documentary about Goosebumps.
I think that this would have been a better suited short documentary.
Oh yeah, like a short piece, like 30 minutes.
Like a 30-minute, like a nice tight 30-minute short doc about, the love of scary stories to tell in dark. He could have touched on those other topics that he did, and it would have felt more full. It would have felt like there was more to it. But those topics weren't enough to stretch over an hour. And I think that he probably could. I think that he has a lot of passion, and I think that could really take him far, because that's the kind of just you have to have it to keep going and keep making that shit. But I think that he definitely needs a team of people, which everybody does, to sit down and actually take the creative reins and in a direction, focus, fill out that direction, fill out that creative, whatever you decide your story is, and work on that. Because if he is very passionate about this, and you can tell that shines through, and if he had more, I don't know what it needed, if it was more money, if it was more time, if it was just more planning, which I think is honestly where it is.
I'm not sure it was time, because who is he reporting to? Himself?
Well, yeah, if it was an Indiegogo campaign, there is some.
How many Indiegogos have you seen where they just take the fucking money and run? I got the money and I'm out of here.
And
later.
I didn't make the movie, bye.
Yeah, or I didn't release the video game, or I didn't release the book, or I didn't release this, that, and something else, because that's like 90% of all Indiegogos and Kickstarters.
Yeah. That's fair, but I
feel like it came out this year because that movie is coming out this year.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Right? Realistically, let's be honest here. That's why it's coming out in 2019. It's because the movie comes out in 4 months, so...
And there's really not a lot of buzz behind it. The movie itself is not...
I'm not sure this is going to help.
No, it's not. And it's really not. And honestly, I don't know when it's even coming. I don't know when it's coming out, or where it will be available.
I would assume it's probably going to be VOD on iTunes or Amazon Prime. And look, I am not deriding someone else's work. He is very passionate, like you said, but it does help to have other people in the room with you saying, oh, maybe we should do this, or maybe we should do this. Because ultimately, the creative process is a collaborative process, unless you're the kind of person who, say, a Quentin Tarantino who's an asshole, or George Lucas who an asshole. You do it on your own, and you have a very distinct idea and vision, and then it comes back to bite you, like George Lucas with Phantom Menace, where those movies are bad. You got to applaud him for making the movie he wanted to make, but those movies aren't good. And so with Scary Stories, this documentary, it's the same thing. It's like, I applaud you for getting the money. I applaud you for making this. It's impressive that you got the money to make this, but at the same time, you needed to focus in on one thing and do that one thing really well and
Honestly,
not branch out so much.
I honestly don't know where the money is in this documentary.
Yeah, I mean, maybe travel?
I would say probably travel. I mean, travel, lodging, food, that's always going to go. And then, I mean, you are paying a crew, but the production quality, I mean, the interviews, for one, are very interesting because in some points they seem like they're trying way too hard with the location. And then in other times it's just like, let's just sit you in a room and here's a wall and there you go. Like it's you go to all this effort to have somebody like, you know, standing in this broken building in piles of glass and you have people sitting, where was the one guy? He was in a hearse, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, maybe a lot of money went to those couple locations. I mean, that broken building, I guarantee they didn't pay for that. But the hearse, I'm sure they did. But so it's confusing to me is because they seem to put some effort on some interviews in making them intentional and having some kind of creative, like, look to them, actually have a look to them. And others, they were just like, whatever.
So here's the thing. So I did a little digging earlier today, and because I figured we were going to get to because I know that you have the actual background in the process here.
Mm-hmm.
Cody Meirick did 3 Indiegogos for this movie. Yeah, exactly, right? He never hit the funding goals for any of them. The one that he got the most for was about $7,800. Then he got about $2,000 from another one. And then he got about, I think it was another, let's say $1,800. So
that's like, so what we got, 7, 8, 9, 10, we'll say what,
like 13,000?
1,300 or 13 grand. Yeah, that's pretty cheap. That's really cheap. It's really, really, really cheap, actually.
And here's the thing. What I assume was the expectation was that Scary Stories, that's a 90s kid thing. Oh, the 90s kids are going to love it if I make this, so I'm going to get a ton of money. It's going to be a huge viral thing. And it wasn't.
Right. So you also got to think, like, from my standpoint, a DP, like an average, like in my experience, and I'm speaking from experience of Ohio, not LA, not New York, so I don't know what prices are there, and they're vastly more expensive. But Cody seems like he's probably more... Oh, Chicago. Okay, I was going to say it's Midwest.
Yeah, no, he's based out of Chicago.
So he's paying a Midwest crew. But even still, a good DP is going to run you at least $700 a day.
Right. And the crazy thing is here is, like, Cody Meirick doesn't even have, like, film background.
Yeah. What is it? Did he just... He just decided to make a movie?
He has, like, a master's in English literature. And he has managed... He has 5 years of managing a nonprofit aimed towards improving early education. So it's like... Okay,
well, that honestly, that makes a lot of sense as to the feel of this movie, because it does very much feel like a PBS...
But I think if it were made by... I feel like if it were made by PBS, it might be a little better.
That's fair. But just that...
Again, not trying to drag this, but like this, it's like there's a lot of stuff here that makes a lot of sense when you know.
It's really bland.
Yeah, it's just
bland and dry,
generic.
and that makes sense coming from an educational background.
Yeah, an English lit major, like, okay, we get it. Yep, well, we get it. We really get it.
And that also makes sense as to why he did, like, focus more on the book banning aspect. Which, fine. If that's your thing, though, go full on. Like,
make a documentary about banned books.
Follow up with that dad that you showed, that one C-SPAN clip that I thought was actually a fantastic pull of the dad. There's this blue-collar working dad pleading with these people not to take these books off the shelves because his daughter, he doesn't have time to read his daughter's stories, so she reads these stories to him sometimes. And like that just kind of broke my heart. And I'm like, okay, where's that dad now? You could have followed, like follow up with these people. Like if you want to do that angle, you want to follow the banned books angle, follow up with more than just like, you know, the Wicked Witch of the West and the, you know, Glenda the Good Witch. Like that's all we did. We had the one nice librarian and the one lady who was supposed to be the we hate these books, rah, rah, rah. And that's it.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. I think, you know what might have even been a better idea here? Just make a documentary about banned books.
Yeah, especially in the 90s. You could have definitely done that. I mean, you could
or just in general.
Oh yeah,
right.
I mean, people have been banning books since books have been around. Like,
yeah, like why not
and
just do that?
Especially in schools, and then talking about the hypocritical nature of some books that they teach in schools,
like Huckleberry Finn.
Yeah, or Lord of the Flies, which is one of my favorite. But holy shit.
Yeah, like, because it has the N-word in it, we have to ban it, or not? Excuse me, because it has the N-word in it, but it's culturally significant, we don't ban it. But let's ban something that maybe is just kind of not my cup of tea.
Right, because whatever reason, because it's scary and we associate things that are, that have to deal with, because you know why? Because nobody wants to talk to kids about death, that's why.
That's actually totally what it is. They bring that up, and to the film's credit, they bring that up a lot.
You won't see the engineer that slams the Nissan Rogue's door 13,920 times. Or the corrosive chamber that simulates 15 years of life in 5 months. Or the Rogue heat-baked for over 300 combined hours. What you will see is a vehicle that can take punch after punch and keep rolling. Nissan, #1 in new vehicle quality among mainstream brands by J.D. Power. We put it through the worst, so you get its best. For J.D. Power 2025 U.S. Initial Quality Study Award information, visit jdpower.com/awards. Awards based on 2025 model year. Newer models may be shown.
The audio commentary. It's a dying art form, but here at One Track Mind, I, your wonky yet affable host Ryan Luis Rodriguez, analyze film through the prism of these embryonic forms of podcasting, one audio commentary at a time. Masterpieces, crapster pieces, live action, animation, cult classics, films literally no one has ever heard of. No track is too small and no track is too big. Join me and my guests from the entertainment world as we keep these features alive every other Tuesday. Hey, who else is going to discuss Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey one week and Citizen Kane the next? Us, that's who. Sure, you have to put up with my voice, but there's a certain give and take in this industry. That's One Track Mind, part of the Someone's Favorite Productions family and available wherever you get your podcasts.
Yes, and that.
But they don't have anything interesting
true.
to say. But they don't have anything interesting to say about it.
No, they don't. And they could have they should have, like maybe interviewed a couple experts, child psychology experts on how exposing children to scary things, how that affects kids and, not exposing them to scary things, how that affects kids, because it does. I'm not saying you should throw The Exorcist on for your 5-year-old, but Goosebumps for your 6-year-old is going to be just fine.
I wonder, though, if, honestly, anyone our age cares about how it affects child psychology, because, like you said, no one now gives a shit other than people who are our age.
Right.
And, I don't care, honestly, about the psychology of children when it comes to talking about death. Because, I mean, either we're going to talk about it or we're not.
I mean, I am absolutely for children being exposed to scary things.
Oh, yeah, I agree. But, But scary things and talking about death, that I'm not sure that really has a place in this documentary.
Right. I would agree, because that would be something that is a bit heavier, and that isn't necessarily the angle they were going for, but it is an angle they could have gone for, and the myriad of angles that they could have gone for, and they just didn't. Because yes, I believe that Cody Meirick is just he loves scary stories to tell in the dark, and that's fantastic. But I think beyond that, he didn't have any other motivation. It's just, I love these stories, and I want to make a movie about them. And then, hey, maybe I can talk about banned books. That fits into my thing. And then...
And maybe I can talk to the lady who wanted them banned. And maybe I can somehow talk to R.L. Stine.
And, yeah, well, how much did they pay R.L. Stine?
Right. I mean, look, of the gets in this documentary, the big get is talking to R.L. Stine.
It is.
I know you talked to Alvin Schwartz's family, but I'm going to level with you. I don't know if people are banging down Alvin Schwartz's family's door being like, we want to talk to you.
Well, and to be honest, it's not like his son seemed very
oh my God,
keen
right?
on talking about him. Honestly, they could have made a documentary about that. About
how he's not a great dad.
Yeah, about how that whole They could have done a whole story about how this man who, you know, spent all this time writing books for children and and then how it affected his actual family life. And they only kind of went into that, but that would have been the more emotional that would have been the more emotional angle. Obviously his son is very resentful still.
And you know, like we mentioned, they bring up Stephen Gamble, but
he's not there.
They don't talk to him, which, I mean...
Is he alive?
He is alive, but they've said, he's very reclusive.
Oh, is he?
Okay, I mean, that's fair, but, you know...
So pull a Finding J.D. Salinger and just go hang
find
out.
him.
Hey, that's what documentaries are, man.
How devoted are you to this?
Yeah.
Like, how bad do you want this? Because if you had gotten an interview with Stephen Gamble, I think everyone would be like, holy shit, and he's a recluse, and you guys talk to him?
Right, exactly. And I mean, he's got a website.
Yeah. Maybe he didn't think that you guys were doing the source material.
That's a possibility, too.
Mm-hmm. And look,
he's reclusive answer is, okay, maybe, but...
Hang a lantern on it.
Yeah.
So, okay, sure. Look, and this premiered at Panic Fest last year. Panic Fest is a film documentary. I think it's maybe not documentaries only, but it's a film festival in Kansas City. The only review about this film so far is on one of the fucking biggest wastes of time on the internet, Birth Movies Death, for numerous reasons. I am not a huge fan of that website, but they kind of came to the same conclusion we did. So,
Bloody Disgusting has a review.
Oh, do they?
They liked it.
Well,
they like everything.
Yeah. So does Bloody Disgusting is not very discerning anymore. They used to be.
I used to write for it. I used to write for Birth Movies Death too.
Birth Movie, yeah, you know.
Just a couple things. I only did freelance for them.
Any website that was started by Devin Faraci.
Well, there is that, but they are some parts of them are trying to make amends for that. So,
well, they're trying,
and there are writers there that I do enjoy.
But you know, I don't think that they are wrong in their assumptions about the film, because we came to the same conclusions that it is just okay. But look, you don't have to remind me these books exist.
No, I know it.
I have them on my shelf here. Like, I bought them. I was at a Half Price Books in Omaha. I happened upon them. They're like $1. I was like, oh, yeah, you know, whatever. These are kind of a fun little thing to have on the bookshelf to kind of peruse every now and then. They're the original copies. I mean, they're the copies from the Scholastic Book Fair. They say Scholastic on them. So they're kind of a fun little trip down memory lane. But if I want a trip down memory lane, I'm just going to read those.
Right. Exactly. Because, like you said, who is this documentary for? Exactly. Documentaries themselves are supposed to teach people something, right? They're supposed to...
Or challenge the preconceived notions.
Somebody. Yes, they're supposed to make you think in some way. They're not just supposed to be little bubbles of, you know, information. If you want that, go to YouTube. If you want that, if you are making a documentary or watching a documentary, it's supposed to you're supposed to go away from it with something, either a thought or a fact or something that you didn't really think about or know before you watched it. I left this documentary, I learned nothing. I knew about everything that they touched upon, because that's the thing, is they just touched upon everything. They didn't deep dive into anything.
And they didn't make any grand realizations or discoveries or anything. Like you said, just like reading the Wikipedia page.
Right.
By the way, the narrative that's coming out is essentially going to be Goosebumps. So, looking farther into it, it's at the edge of town. This weird girl and this weird family turned her tortured life into a series of scary stories that transcended time and then becomes real for another group of teenagers who go into the house. So,
okay, well,
so it's going to be kind of exactly what you were thinking.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. I guess.
Great. I mean, it's being directed by Andre Orvedal. I'm sure I butchered that because it's a Norwegian name, and he directed Trollhunter and wrote it. But, you know,
I like Trollhunter.
I like Trollhunter too, and I also like The Autopsy of Jane Doe, which he also directed.
Okay, well, you know what? Honestly, I aside from just general curmudgeonliness, I don't have a reason to not be looking forward to this movie, because I do enjoy scary stories to tell in the dark. I do like Trollhunter. I do like Autopsy of Jane Doe. And all those effects are supposed to be practical.
The only thing I have that would worry me about it is that it feels like a cash-in on 90s nostalgia.
Well, I mean, yeah, but isn't that just how we live now?
Yeah, isn't that just the way things are
because
now?
Because we're done with 80s nostalgia, we're moving on to 90s nostalgia.
Right. 90s nostalgia, like, why is that
Because we're all about to be 30 now.
Oh, dear God.
That's why. That's
don't
when
remind
it
me.
happens.
Yeah,
when all the
it's happening
80s kids
now.
turned 30, that's when we started getting.
Hey, we're back to the Fortnite nostalgia. Oh, God, kill me now. I want to die.
If we
I want
start hitting
to die.
like early 2000s nostalgia, I'm just not. I'm oof. Oh boy.
Yeah, I'm checking out. I'm gone.
Boy.
But, you know, I mean, for me, this documentary is what it is. It's definitely one of those documentaries where I walked away from it going, hey, I didn't learn anything new here, and it was an interesting diversion for like an hour and a half, but time could have been spent elsewhere. It felt like a YouTube documentary.
Exactly. I entirely agree with that. And
I've seen better documentaries on YouTube.
You can do a lot with little money, man.
Right, you really can. I mean, the world is an exciting place now that everyone can make videos.
Yeah. It also
Maybe
makes
some
my
people
job
shouldn't.
a lot harder, but
Yeah. Why don't you just make it yourself and post it on YouTube, fucko? Like,
exactly.
okay.
It makes convincing people to pay for quality work a lot more difficult, but you get what you pay for, as they say.
Isn't that the way it works? You sure do get what you pay for. I think we have thoroughly told this guy to maybe don't make a documentary again about this, and if you do, craft it better.
Just pick one topic, focus on that, focus all your efforts on that, put as much passion as you have for the initial topic into that little side story, and you will be fine.
Yeah.
But
and don't get hung up on the banned book part.
Yeah, and if you are, make a documentary about banned books.
Yeah.
If that's what you want to talk about, that's your soapbox, then do that. But don't disguise it under nostalgia love. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't try to. Don't bait and switch. Because that's what it feels like. Feels very bait and switch.
Yeah, I would agree.
So, what would you give this documentary out of 5?
I'm gonna give it a 2 out of 5.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think a 2 is generous. I don't want to completely, say those are fucking terrible, but it's just very all over the place. And focus is not a bad thing. I get that there's a lot of stuff you want to talk about, but sometimes you got to pick the things you want to talk about and just leave the other things on the cutting room floor.
Exactly.
Jess, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at writer Jess Byard. You can find me on Instagram at the same handle. And that's about it. You can find shit I wrote on Bloody Disgusting and Birth Movies Death, but it's all old now. By old, I mean like at least 2 years, and that's ancient internet time. So
one day is ancient in internet time. Isn't that how this all works now?
Yep.
24-hour news cycle. Fuck you. Oh, God. And as for me, you can find me here on the Kulturecast. You can find me on Twitter at Kulturestash. I should probably change that at some point. You can also find me on a little podcast that I do with Mike White, the Kolchak Tapes, where we talk about Kolchak the Night Stalker. And you can also find me on a little podcast I do about Tales from the Crypt called Chronicles from the Crypt. You can find that one at chroniclesftc.com. And you can find me on another podcast called Dreams for Sale, where we talk about Twilight Zone 1985 and the new show, which is getting a second season, unfortunately. I like that noise. Just that. Yeah, it's if you can't tell from Jess's reaction, it's real fucking bad. Unfortunately for everyone watching, it's not great, but you can find that over at twilightzone85.com. Big thanks to you, Jess, for joining me to talk about this and for being the one that brought this idea to my attention to begin with.
Of course. Thanks for having me on.
And we'll catch you on the next Kulturecast.
Hello, this is Aaron West. I am the author of the A24 New Wave. In this book, I look at A24's output and I make the argument that we are in a new wave movement right now. A24 plays a major role. This book has a supplemental podcast where each episode is a brief conversation about an A24 related topic, whether an actor, director, or even a genre. As I continue research for the book and conduct interviews, I expect to record podcast episodes with people involved with the company. You can find the podcast at cinejourneys.com or wherever you find podcasts, and we are proud to be members of the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.